Hello everyone. It's me, Chaff Commander Coffee, and we're here with my very first of a series of tutorials I'm going to do about playing Humankind, and, well, to a greater extent, playing Humankind on the highest difficulty in single player. But some of these lessons, of course, will carry on. They'll be backwards compatible, so if you're playing on a lower difficulty, a lot of the things that I talk about will still be relevant. And just if you're getting into the game for the first time, or if you're a more advanced player and you want to pick up a few tricks, I might have some on display that you've not seen before. So I want to start off by saying that this first, as the title suggests, this first tutorial is about the Neolithic era, the era of exploration, lack of a city, building units or buildings. It's purely just exploration and picking up things. A little bit of combat here and there, but mostly just looking around, seeing what's about. What has the world got to offer? Well, let's get stuck in. This tutorial, future tutorials won't be me playing an entire era or showing off an entire mechanic in its, in one full length, just sit down and play. But the Neolithic era you can actually complete relatively quickly, and I'd like to talk about, well, how you do that and some tips and tricks along the way. Okay. So, first things first, you start with your little settler. I'm not going to go over the very bare fundamentals, right? If you guys want bare fundamentals, there are other tutorials out there that will teach you that you right-click to move and talk about all other stuff that if you've never played a video game before, then I guess would be helpful. But I'm just going to be talking about Humankind itself and some of the unique mechanics that you wouldn't have seen in another 4X, perhaps, or just how you handle the Neolithic era. For a start, you got your one tribe, right? Now, to age up into the next area, you need one of the 3 stars here. Growth, have a 5 population. Knowledge, discover 10 curiosities, or discover curiosities to accrue 10 science. Now, that isn't 10 curiosities. Some of the curiosities will give more than 1 science, so first thing there. And then the hunter star, which is hunt a total of 5 animals. Okay. Now, the one you normally get first is the growth star, but you get a special benefit if you finish the knowledge star, which is known as the legacy. I'll show off the legacies later because we will be getting it. But you can age up as soon as you get any of these. Would I recommend aging up as quickly as possible? Depends if there's a particular culture you absolutely must have in the ancient era. Honestly, most of the ancient era cultures are pretty decent. You can make pretty good plays with any of them, though some are arguably more powerful than others, but that's not what this video is about. So if you're looking for a particular culture in the ancient era, it can be worth aging up as quickly as possible. Is it worth holding on to get the legacy? That I'm still not 100% sure about. I know this is a tutorial, I'm supposed to be teaching you how to play the game, but the game's only been out a week. I've played, between now and the Victor Open Dev, I've played over 100 hours of Humankind already. Do I think that the legacy trait is absolutely must have? No, I don't. I don't think that the knowledge star is a must have. If delaying your ancient era by 5 or 6 turns plus is what it will take to get that knowledge star, is it worth it? Probably not. If you can pick it up quickly, it's nice, but it's not absolutely essential. So don't feel like you have to, that you absolutely have to get it. If you want to age up fast, go ahead. That's absolutely fine as well. So first things first is exploration. Now, I can actually show something off here immediately. These tiles here are woodland. You can see in the bottom left, they're woodland, base movement cost of 1, whereas forests actually have a base movement cost of 2. Now, this is going to put people off because they'll see trees on the map and go, oh, trees move through, and sometimes it's going to cost them 2 movement rather than 1. The easy way to tell is just to turn on your FIDSy output here, down, or figs, as I like to call it. They call it FIMS, I'm going to keep calling it figs. So your output down here, and if it's got 2 industry, that means it's probably a forest. Now, it's not always the case, but it's probably a forest if it's got 2 industry on it, and it's going to cost you 2 movement, yeah? So just keep in mind that that is how it is, okay? And if you want to save movement, you want to try to stay out of forest because it also blocks vision. Same with woodland. Woodland will also block vision. But it won't cost you as many movement points to traverse. Okay. Now, curiosities. Science curiosities, they can be very varied. Food curiosities are the other kind. There are 3 types. There are only ever 3 types, and it's kind of easy to tell which one's which. This is probably going to be wild berries, which is worth 5 food. There's also nuts, which are worth 10 food, and freshwater harvest, which is worth 15 food. Now, freshwater harvest is always found on river tiles. If there's a river and you search that river, you cross onto it or look down the length of the river, you will normally find a freshwater harvest worth 15 food. Wild berries tend to be on low elevation terrain or on lush terrain, so high food tiles, whereas nuts tend to be on higher elevation terrain. Or in, for example, maybe icy terrain and things like that. Though it's a bit of a hit or miss on that. But I tend to find nuts are in like the higher elevation terrains than the wild berries. So that's just like the first thing off the bat there. As I said, knowledge curiosities, I haven't really found a trend with them. They're kind of neither here nor there. You'll just pick them up and get a bonus with them. Now, one thing you can do in the Neolithic, and I do recommend doing it fairly early, is setting up an outpost. Now, to set up an outpost, you actually need a minimum of 5 influence. Now, the easiest way to get 5 influence is either find a knowledge curiosity or fight a wild animal. Luckily, we have both. Streamer luck, I guess. I'm able to show this off immediately. We're just going to pick up the knowledge curiosity because it's right there. Ah, and there's another tribe. I'll talk about that in a bit. So that knowledge curiosity, you can see we actually got 2 towards it. We actually got 2 out of 10 for that single curiosity there. So as I said, it's not always 1. Sometimes you get 2. I think you can get up to 4, I think, is the max. But I don't really remember. They must be so rare that I pick them up. I get some buffs. That's how it is. So when you're setting up an outpost, I'm not going to go into the city location, like best places for it or placing outposts. That's going to be another tutorial. But I would advise setting up an outpost early in the Neolithic because it will grow population, which will add towards your actual growth star and allow you to age up a bit faster. So if you can get an outpost up early, it's going to be really helpful. The speed at which you build the outpost is based on the industry. So if I was to build it here, I get a lot more food, but it'll take 13 turns to set up. So this won't be... I'll be out of the Neolithic before this is finished, or just about when this finishes. But if I build it over here, it'll only take 3 turns, but it produces less food. Generally speaking, you want to try to grab tiles with a mix of food and industry. Rivers are particularly good for this, since the city center will exploit both food and industry. Yeah, it on the same tile. So this tile does food and industry. If I put the outpost next to it, you can see that they're highlighted in green. It will exploit both the food and the industry, and that includes the tile that you set it on. They will... I didn't mean to left click there, but whatever, it's fine. I can show off something else. It will eat up all your movement when you place an outpost, so keep that in mind. It generally, you want to finish your movements and then set up the outpost when you have none left, because it's just a little bit more move efficient. But it's not like, again, that slight optimization. But you can both set up outposts and ransack whilst you have 0 movement. Okay, so you can spend all your movement getting into a prime location and then set up your outpost or do a ransack. Now, there is another tribe here. There's also a sanctuary. Sanctuaries spawn wild animals. You may want to leave sanctuaries around for a bit to spawn more animals so you can get your hunter star if you really want that. Otherwise, feel free to ransack them. You'll get an extra population every time you ransack a sanctuary. It gives 20. Other tribes. Now, as I said, this tutorial is on Humankind difficulty, and this is based on Humankind, or these tutorials are based on playing on the highest difficulty. Early on, all the AI units are going to get +2 combat strength due to being on Humankind difficulty, which means they will slap you if you try and fight them. So do not try 1-for-1 the AI early on. You're not going to win. However, well, you can win, but you don't kill them. So I'll try and show that off. We'll see if they move towards us. They're going to go kill that deer. Okay, now they're actually wounded, and they have no more movement. So what I can do is I can actually go in there and kill them myself. They might actually attack me, so let's find out. Are they going to attack me? If they don't, I mean, that works just fine. I could try and fight them, but it's not going to be a very good spot to fight them. So I can talk a little bit about zone of control. So because we started our turn next to them, yeah, they only get one movement. If you try to move in or outside of a unit zone of control, it'll cost you all 4 movement. Now, if you have more than 4 movement, say you have 5 movement, if you pick the Assyrians, or you got a random event that boosts movement, or you have other perks that just boost movement like that, then you can make use of that to outmaneuver people around you. But yeah, otherwise it's going to cost us 1. Now, if I was to start this fight, their flag would appear here. If I was to move here and then start the fight on them, their flag would be right here or down here. So try to pick your fights where you can force their flag into undesirable locations, for example, on low ground, because then you can get a little bit of an extra combat strength boost on them. For now, we're just going to go destroy the sanctuary, because that's going to give us an extra population, and then it'll be 2v1, and then we can do what we want to those poor little tribesmen running away there. We're going to leave them to run away. Now, I can't show off splitting the tribes just yet. If we can find some more wild animals like a mammoth, I'll be able to do that. Here you go. So, food on river, always, always, always freshwater harvest.
Full bellies and healthy children.
So, a very, very good pickup there.
You have built a
now,
outpost, adding another territory.
The narrator's going to have a little chat as well.
This is the beginning of very, very big.
Moving onto a river will cost all your movement. Moving along a river is not extra, and also moving off a river doesn't cost any extra. It's only moving onto it. I'll come back to that event. So we're going to follow this river along. This will be onto a... Now, this is a forest, right? So normally this would cost 2 movement, yeah? But because we're on a river, it only costs 1. Always costs just 1 to move along rivers. Oh, they're actually attacking us. That's good. Okay. So it's very easy to beat the AI in situations like this where they attack us. Now, unfortunately, we are on a river, so we are going to take a combat penalty for fighting on a river like this. We're going to move this guy here. We want to stay away from this high ground. We don't want to deploy there because they'll just bash us whilst we're on rivers and low ground, and we'll just get annihilated. So we want to try to stay as far away as possible. Force them onto the river as well. And then this unit is going to start flanking around whilst these guys defend. Now, whilst you're defending, you actually get a +2 strength, so... yeah, and they're trying to... I don't know what they're trying to do, really, but we're going to get a lovely flank attack there, and we're just going to take another defend. Better to take the defend than to take the attack, because we'll take less damage. Right. So we got a kill there. Kills against enemy tribes do not count towards your Hunter Star, so... If you kill them, it's literally just to bully them. Now, if they didn't have any other tribes wandering around, they might now actually have 3 tribes, so that might be bad for us, but I'll talk about that in a bit. There's 2 exploits slash... I'm going to call them exploits because I don't think it's really intended that people like sort of game the system by using them, but I'll talk about them towards the end, okay? If there's anything you guys might be thinking, wait a second, why isn't Chaff doing this? It's because I consider them exploits. I'll talk about that in a bit. Right, this event. There's a couple of events in the Neolithic era that can fire off. There's some events that are tied to actually having an outpost active. There are some events tied to winning combat. There's some events tied to collecting certain curiosities. This one here, Seed of an Idea. You can choose to get a cost reduction on domestication, which is a tech in the ancient era, or you can get +2 food on your cities or outposts, right? I personally prefer to go with the +2 food on cities or outposts because domestication is a really cheap tech. It's one of the first techs in the ancient era, so you'll research it in like 2 turns anyway. So I'd rather get the extra food to help with growth. And as you can see over here, we're getting +2 from narrative event. So we're getting extra food here, which will grow the population a little bit faster. Now, there is an enemy outpost here. They haven't finished it. We could actually burn this down if we want. It's going to take 3 turns. It's going to generate 40 food, which is really good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break off this one guy here. they're going to keep on running around, and this one guy's just going to burn this outpost down. It's going to take 5 turns, but they'll generate 2 population doing it, which is pretty big. So, and these guys are going to carry on exploring. Just staying okay, no, we're going to run away. You can see there's enemy tribes on their way. Yeah, they so basically, because they had no tribes to run around the map, it spawned them new tribes. This is why you got to be careful picking fights with a single enemy tribe, because you might actually end up being outnumbered by doing that. This also works for the player as well. It is one of the exploits I will talk about as we go through the video. Okay. So these guys, 1 movement left, that's all you need to enter a river. These guys have got 2 movement, and so we're going to move them along this way so they can keep on checking that location, right? Now, moving across the river diagonally here. Okay, we're actually being attacked. That's okay, we'll come back to that. Alright, there's some nuts there. You see nuts came from this higher elevation tile, sort of closer to mountains. That's generally where I find nuts spawn, is closer to mountains and higher elevation, as I said. Right, let's go and have this fight here. So, we need to protect our flag. Now, we don't want to be fighting AI. So if we held here, yeah, they can't get to the flag, but at the same time, they're attacking not on a river, into a river, so we'll get wrecked. Whereas if we protect here, at least they have to fight us river to river. So, if you don't think you can beat the AI, just defend. If you end round, it will auto defend your units. You don't have to click this. It will auto defend anyone who's still got movement. And they don't want to take the fight there. Okay, now they're taking the fight. But you can see it's now a pretty even fight because they're on 9 strength, -3 from the crossing, +2 from Humankind. We're on 7, -3 from the crossing, but we go up to 9 if we defend. So play defensive. Play defensive. It will help a lot in the early game in situations like that. Okay, we're not going to go for the science here. It's more important to get access to more tribes. So we're actually going to follow the river still, looking for food rather than backtracking for that science. We can pick it up later. Okay, we got another event. We can choose to get again a research cost reduction. I really don't like these. These are not that helpful. 2 science. This will stack up when you enter the ancient era, but 2 science is barely anything. Bountiful is going to add 10 food to the city for 5 food for 10 turns. So that's going to give us 50 food. And we're probably going to be in the Neolithic for at least, well, a few more turns. Because we've not had great growth. We haven't had a huge amount of food curiosities. Don't worry, you can spend about, sometimes you'll have a really fast Neolithic and you'll get out of it in literally 5, 6, 7 turns. Other times you'll have a slow Neolithic and you won't be leaving it till about turn 16 up to turn 20. Don't worry about it. If you take a long time in the Neolithic, it's not necessarily a bad idea. You might come out with of Neolithic with more influence, with more population in one of your outposts, that sort of thing. So it's not the worst thing to be a little bit slower in Neolithic. Okay, right. So now I can demonstrate you can ransack with no movement. So we're going to move here. I'm also going to demonstrate another thing. So we got some wild berries there. Only 1 movement. If I break these guys off, this is the new tribe. The newest tribe always spawns furthest to the right. Okay. We split them off, and this tribe here has got 3 movement. So you want to get used to doing that. It makes a very, very, very big difference with your exploration early on in the game. So every time you spawn a new tribe, by picking up a food curiosity, you want to detach them so you can get some extra movement. If you spawn an extra tribe from hunting, you can't split them off because the unit has been engaged in combat that turn. So you can't do that, okay? Right, let's move up onto the high ground. So we're going to avoid the forest, go on the high ground and see if we can't spot anything heading this way. This new tribe, we are going to send them up onto the high ground over here, see what we can spot. There's a sanctuary over there and there's some food down there. It's going to take a little while to get through this forest, so we're going to do a little bit of fog busting and then head round and get to that sanctuary. So I like that. That path is a lot better than going down for that, because the sanctuary is going to spawn us new population anyway. That is probably only going to be 5 or 10 food, so we're actually going to go beeline for the sanctuary. These guys, they're going to end their movement on the lair, no movement, can still ransack. So we're going to do that. That's going to spawn us a new tribe. So even if these scouts come over and attack us, we're going to have 2 tribes and be able to beat them, be able to fight those off. These guys might try to ransack my outpost here. That would kind of suck, but not the end of the world. And there's our growth star, so we can age up now. It's turn 11. We have the option of aging up. Okay, nuts. No, that was wild berries, which is a little unfortunate, but it's okay. Right, there's another thing I'll get to show off here as well. So, mammoths are worth 1 population. They're worth 20 food and 20 influence. 20 influence is a big deal as well. So you want to be killing mammoths, but they're pretty tough, and a single tribe is probably not going to be able to beat them, unless, of course, you have a guaranteed high ground advantage, or you can force them onto a river. Then a single tribe can beat them, but that's something you'll just have to get used to playing the game, as picking fights with mammoths with a single tribe. Generally speaking, you want to use 2 tribes, and you can always beat them just by using 2 tribes. Now, wild animals don't get the humankind buff, but mammoths are 13 strength, so even if you just have flat ground, 1 tribe versus 1 mammoth, and you just keep defending, it will still beat you, so you don't want to do that. Now, this tribe is going to take some time getting towards that mammoth. Remind me later. They're going to take some time. Now, this mammoth would normally have 4 movement to run away, but because there's a tribe next to it, its movement's going to get cut down to 1 because of hostile zone of control. However, players or tribes do not suffer hostile zone of control from wild animals. They only suffer it from enemy tribes, yeah? So we can actually happily mill around, do whatever we want, and this is going to get only one tile of movement, and we can then carry on moving 4 tiles. So what I call this is checking, or I guess you could call it marking. So this tribe marked this mammoth, so my 2 tribes, or these 2 tribes down here, could run up and be in position to fight at the next turn. Now this guy can just carry on his merry way. You can see, zone of control, still got 4 movement, so we can happily just run over there and start ransacking that sanctuary. And we have our first natural wonder as well, so I'll go over the importance of natural wonders after we fight this mammoth. So we're going to fight this mammoth. There are no flags, so we don't need to protect a flag or anything like that. All we need to do is just take some attacks, and because it is downhill, we get +4 extra from high ground and +1 from friendly units, so we're just going to take those attacks. Had a bit of a nasty roll, actually, on both of those. The mammoth has now gone on the high ground, but that's okay. We've already done plenty of damage to it, so we can just move our tribe over here. And we can end round, let it make the attack there, and then the healthy tribe is going to just finish it off. There we go. And we're going to spawn another tribe immediately, because we got the 20 food and 20 influence. This additional tribe can't split it off because we've been in combat, okay? But you can split off if you've been picking up food curiosities, as I said. So now we can check this mammoth as well, and we can go pick up this science curiosity. Let's go do that. So this mammoth's only going to have 1 movement. See, that curiosity gave us 3 science, so big deal there. Big deal of science there. So he's only going to get 1 movement, as you can see. And now we can move outside of his range, and he's not going to move any further. We already, removed all of his movement, so that's fine. Okay, these guys, we're going to split these up. So again, try to split up your tribe. If you don't feel like you're in immediate danger, split your tribes up. I don't recommend splitting them up all the time, because splitting them up all the time leaves them vulnerable to being attacked by enemy scouts. And every population you lose in Neolithic, it does add up. All right, now there's a deer here. Now you can always instant resolve fights with deers. You can always do that. In a 1v1, regardless of terrain, you're always able to instant resolve. Even on the highest difficulty, it doesn't matter. You're always going to win that. Deers are only worth 5 influence and 5 food, but they do add up to your hunter stars a lot faster. So if you're looking for hunter stars, you want to try hunt deers down because they're nice and easy to kill. Right, so for this mammoth, what we want to do is we want to engage it from this side, because then the flag, preview for the fight here, most of its terrain is it's also including this hill here, so we don't want it to spawn on that hill, so we're going to go 1 extra tile there. And now it doesn't include that hill, so the mammoth cannot occupy that hill as part. So yeah, moving around the hunted animals and picking the best spots to fight them, Very, very important. I'll do the random event afterwards in a bit. Now we're gonna put our wounded tribe up on the hill here. Let's just try conserve some HP on them. And we can see the Mammoth is now over here. That's fine. We're gonna actually pull these guys back. Now normally I'd only be able to move them one tile because they're in an enemy zone of control, but I can move through my own units just fine, ignoring zone of control. I will do a full tutorial on how to manipulate the movement in combat, but just to show off, that's how I did it in that particular situation. That's how I did it. Right. Now I want to get a full flank on this Mammoth. I'm not going to be able to get it this turn, but I might be able to get it next turn. Okay. So we're going to end round. Excellent stuff. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to have this tribe come down here, and it's going to make its flank attack at +4 from rear attack and +1 from friendly units. This guy's then going to move here to give these guys the +1 from friendly units and finish it off. There we go. And we're up to 4 pop here now. Got a random event, Tribe's Legacy. So once you finish your knowledge stars, you'll get a random event saying the Tribe's Legacy. You can pick Makers, Farmers, or Storytellers. And this is a legacy trait, so this is the trait that will carry on into the next era. Your options are +1 industry per pop on city, +1 food per pop on city, or +1 science per pop on city. In the game's current state, I would recommend taking farmers because population consumes quite a lot of food, and food is probably one of the bottlenecks you'll have in your expansion. Industry is something you'll generally produce plenty of just by building makers quarters, and storytellers. Science is something like, if you have 1 pop producing science, they're going to produce 6 science, which you would need 6 population to do otherwise. And if you've got 6 population in your city and they're all doing science, then the storytellers is a very small bonus compared. So I think this science is something that you'll scale up later game when you build more districts and get infrastructure set up. So this is more based on sort of mid to late game infrastructure and construction. Makers are more early game infrastructure and building up your districts. Farmers is the thing that you're going to find is a bit more of a bottleneck. At least I find is a bit more of a bottleneck in more of my runs. So I tend to go for the farmer's plant law. But again, personal preference. As I said, it's not a huge bonus, so you can quite happily pick whichever one you choose, whichever one suits your play style as well. It's not a make or break thing. It's not like more optimal to pick one than the other. I haven't done the full maths on it to say if one is mathematically more optimal, but I don't think that's strictly necessary. Okay. Now, 4 tribes. When you have 4 tribes, they can't grow another one. There's no more space. So you've got to split one off. So we're going to split the most wounded one off, and they're going to go and explore. Tribe's now ready to grow an additional tribesman. And we're going to send it down here because we know there's enemies down here in this location, and we want to have our stronger tribe with more members to be exploring where we think enemy nations are going to be. Don't want to send our wounded single character out that way because they might run into some real trouble. Right, you guys are going to go have a little wander up here. I just need to find 5 more. Oh, we found another natural wonder as well. Very nice. Okay. I'll talk about natural wonders this turn, actually, because we've got the Danikal Desert and Vinnakunkas up there as well. We've also got another random event. Right. Again, research cost reduction. Very cheap tech to get. Wouldn't worry about this. New army refugees, which is actually just a new tribe. Really good. The new tribe always comes with extra movement. One thing I will say is whenever you get an event that spawns a new tribe, if you are next to a curiosity, I always find the tribe likes to spawn on the curiosity and it overwrites it. It doesn't collect it, it actually overwrites it. I don't know if that's a bug and if it's going to get fixed. Not 100% sure, but it's not a big deal. Honestly, it is what it is. So just keep that in mind when you spawn new tribes. Try to not be next to a curiosity when you do it. Sometimes you can't help it. Again, not a big deal. But just for the sake of, getting an additional curiosity is quite cool to avoid that if you can. Okay. Now, these guys are checking this mammoth for when these guys can come over and help fight it. These guys are going to settle a new outpost. See, these guys would be... Our outpost is getting ransacked by this tribe. We're going to just ignore that. That's fine. We're actually going to go settle the Danica Desert. If you find a natural wonder, it doesn't matter how far away your outpost is, try to settle on the natural wonder. Now, obviously, every single outpost you build is going to increase the influence cost of settling the next one. So this one's going to cost 20, and I'll show you how much the other one will cost next. Not much food in this tile. We haven't fully explored it either. That's okay. What we're going to do is we're just going to set this up right here. It's fine. It's a decent enough spot. It provides a lot of industry, so it's only going to take 2 turns to set up, which is ideal. And you can see we're actually gaining 5 influence per turn. And that's because when you settle natural wonders, you can see in the bottom left there, they give +5 influence, 10 stability on the city or outpost, and 10 money on the city or outpost. You don't want to attach multiple natural wonders to the same city because they don't stack the effects. So, for example, if I had a city that had attached both Vinnakunka and the Danica Desert, it would only get the benefits for having one natural wonder, whereas I can now have 2 cities and they'll both get the benefits. But whilst you're in the Neolithic, setting up outposts on natural wonders will give you 5 influence, which is going to give you a very, 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 very helpful. Probably one of the biggest bonuses in the game is getting an early natural wonder in the Neolithic. It's going to allow you to set up more outposts to claim more territory. It will help you get that influence to do your civics and attach outposts when you finally reach the ancient. So if you find a natural wonder, beeline to it, fight for it. If you see the AI settle a natural wonder, go send a large group of, like, for example, if the AI had have settled the Danica Desert, I'd immediately get these 3 or even 4 tribesmen. I'll go burn that down straight away and try and claim it for myself because it is that much of a big deal in the early game. It's such a huge boost. Okay, so we're almost out of the Neolithic. We've got ourselves a natural wonder. We've got another good natural wonder over here. So we've got some good spots to put cities down. Honestly, it doesn't make a huge deal where you put your first city because you can build districts off of any outpost you have attached. So even if your starting location is maybe not the best spot for food or industry, you can make up for it by attaching more outposts later. So don't worry too much about your first city location. Just make sure that it's got access to resources you might want. You know, we've got copper here that's going to be useful for training more powerful units. It's got a luxury, not the best luxury for the early game, but it's okay. It's got decent production, so I just need to attach some food to it, and this will be a fine city spot. Over here, it's being raided. If this gets burned down, we're not gonna, not gonna cry over that. Doesn't matter that much, so that's okay. One thing I will do before I advance to the next era and then call that the end of the tutorial is talk about other civs. Now, you can see other civs are picking up cultures. We've been left with 2, the Phoenicians and the Zhuo. On Humankind difficulty, if you don't age up out of the Neolithic fast, you will have a very small selection of civs to pick from. The AI on Humankind difficulty, which is the max difficulty, they will age up as quickly as they can, right? As soon as they have the ability, they will just shoot through into the next era and they're going to pick. There are a couple of cultures they tend to pick, but it does depend on which avatars you choose to play against. They all have a preference, but they do tend to beeline towards picking up some of the really good cultures. You know, like a lot of people have been complaining that the Harappans, the Mycenaeans, the Nubians, they all get taken very, very quickly. Personally, I find Babylon, Egypt, the Zhuo, Phoenicians, they all tend to be, and the Assyrians tend to go a little bit later as well. The Olmecs tend to go after these 3, and the AI does like to pick up the hit. I've got a lot of militarist AIs set, so they always pick the militarist cultures. But I like fighting, so you know it's good for me. I get a good fight out of the AI picking militarists. Right, so they will try to pick up stuff very, very quickly. So if there's a particular culture you want, as I said at the start, you want to age up quickly. Don't worry about as soon as you get your first star, just age up, pick the culture you want. Okay. Right. Also, there's no diplomacy in the Neolithic, so even though these guys are in the ancient era, you can tell because they have scouts, we can't do diplomacy with them. So I can attack them, I can kill their scouts, wouldn't recommend it because their scouts are 15 strength and my tribes are only 10 strength, so they'll get their ass kicked really hard. But if you can pick off a scout or two, it won't generate any grievances. You can settle outposts right on the borders of their cities. You can attack their scouts. That's fine. You can trespass in their lands because there's no diplomacy, and it won't cause war. So there's literally nothing stopping you doing as many grievance actions as you like in the Neolithic, because the AI won't actually generate grievances when you age up to the next era. So there you go, another little tip or trick there. This can actually be really useful if you want to rush one of the AIs quickly. Is move a stack of four tribes, move a stack of units into their city and have them park next to their city. And as soon as you hit Ancient Era, you have 4 scouts right in their borders. You can surprise war them and just take their city just straight off the bat. And I have done that before, and it does work. It does work. You do have to be pretty lucky with your scouting. You have to scout quite aggressively into where the AI may have set up their borders. For example, I could bring these 3 guys down here and sit around Alcor so that when these guys age up, I might show that off actually, because I think it's a pretty interesting strat to try out in the Neolithic. So I'll try show that off for you guys. Let's bring this guy down as well. So I've got the four tribes that I'd recommend to doing this with. We can even pick up a few extra goodies along the way. Oh, there's a sanctuary too. Oh, that's nice. We might burn that down for some extra pop. Right. So this mammoth got stuck a little bit by this tribe, so we can get these guys to come over here. We don't really want to be fighting the mammoth when it's on high ground, so we're going to take a manual battle here. Try to place your guys far back because mammoth is going to spawn here. We're going to go up onto the high ground and we're going to take our attacks here. And the mammoth is forced to attack us because the AI is. You can actually just choose to block and let the mammoth attack you if you want. That's also a perfectly fine strategy too. But I think if you've got the high ground advantage, you may as well take the attacks because they are going to be good for you. Okay, we've got ourselves an extra pop there, and we have no more movement. But I think it would actually be a good idea for us to settle an outpost here. You can see it's going to cost us 60 influence, which is really expensive. But it would be a good idea for us to settle an outpost here because we'll start getting the extra influence from Vinnikunka. You can see we're up to 10 influence a turn now. One thing we can also do, we've got no movement, and we already fought a battle. Doesn't matter, we are next to another thing that we can fight, so we can fight another battle. So yes, you can chain battles together with no movement. You just have to be next to the wild animal that you would be fighting. Now we can let this deer attack us. It's going to lose most of its strength attacking this one tribe. We're going to pull this tribe back, move those guys there. Move you guys. Deers don't exert zone of control like mammoths do, so you can kind of just run around them at your leisure. Deers are just so easy, like, that was whatever. But hey, we got our hunter star, and we also got another tribe. Again, can't break them off because we got that new tribe from hunting, so it doesn't count. You're going to go burn down the sanctuary. And you can delay aging up and sit in the Neolithic to try to build your population up. You can always disband the population into your cities when you reach the next era. You can get more people scouting around. You can choose to delay. I mean, it's turn 15. This is not the earliest time, but it's also not the latest time I've ever aged up, and I want to show off this little trick here. So we're going to hold off and just try and pick up more population. Just try to... There you go, we've got another 5 food there. These guys are going to go burn down that sanctuary. These guys are going to keep heading south. Our outpost did get ransacked there, which does suck a little bit, but that's fine. These guys we're going to start splitting up. We're going to move one of them down into the fog of war over there, just to have a little look on that side. We're going to move one guy up here to check the coastline. Okay, got ourselves another ancient encampment. And we're going to split these guys up as well. Oh, whoops. Sometimes when I click on these, it doesn't... If they're still moving and you click on them, it doesn't always like properly select them. So having a bit of patience with waiting for units to move before you select them is a good idea. Something that I haven't ever gotten out the habit of is moving like 3 tiles at once. It is a good idea to move 1 tile at a time because if you discover a curiosity, you might have already like pathed to just run past it, and then you'll have wasted movement having to backtrack to go pick it up. So yeah, I think that's a habit I still need to get out of. It's funny because I'm going to advise you not to do it, but I still need to work on that. That's still a habit of mine when I'm running around exploring the map. So yeah, but try to move 1 tile at a time because it will make your exploration a lot more clean, and you'll have better results as well. Okay, so it's turn 17. Ransack on that was successful. We're going to bring these 3 dudes down. These guys are also going to come follow along. We're going to have an army ready to deal with them. These guys got attacked by an enemy scout. They're not going to do very well defending against that, so we will retreat here. They may get attacked again, actually, because they did retreat next to another scout, but we'll see. Oh, sweet. We can just instant resolve that because it's a deer. Again, you can always instant resolve deers. You'll lose about half your HP, but you'll replenish it fast enough. Over here, we've got another fight. I really don't want to take that. Again, we're fighting on high ground, so we'll run away from that too. Split this tribe up. We'll move 1 down there, 1 up here. That was double nuts. We like the double nuts. Yes, we do, guys. We like the nuts. Freshwater harvest is all well and good, but it can be a bit tricky to get at times. But nuts are always good. We like our Snickers, guys. If you ever watched the Snickers advert, you'll know what I'm talking about. Right. So what I did there is I combined those 2 tribes. They do combine their food, so it will produce another tribe. And that new tribe will have movement. So yeah, you can combine tribes to get a little bit extra movement. For example, say I have this tribe here, it's got 15 food. If I get this tribe to kill this deer, they now have 5 food. I could combine them, another tribe would spawn. Be careful when hunting wild animals. If you have 2 stacks of tribes close to each other when you finish a fight, for example, say these guys killed the deer and these guys were right next to them, it would share the food between them, so these guys would have like 3 food and these guys would have 2. It's really awkward. I don't know why it does that. It's kind of annoying since you can't actually reinforce battles in the Neolithic. I wish it didn't do that, but hey, I don't think it's a bug. It's just how the game shares resources between the tribes being close together. So just keep in mind, if you are hunting, try to just have the band that's doing the hunting be near the animal. You want to spread out and cover as much territory as you can. Right, now these guys were running away. If they get attacked by the scouts, yeah, it's simultaneous movement, so the AI is going to get the jump on me there. We're just going to move away from them. We're going to have this tribe is actually going to keep on exploring, just pick up some more berries. There's a science curiosity there. These guys are going to go pick up whatever's over here. There's a sanctuary as well, so we're going to go burn that down. These 2 guys, they're going to start moving east and go and help out my poor tribes that keep getting bullied by scouts. Those damn scouts. Now, here, I should be able to show off how you can actually beat the scouts, right? So we have a choke point. We've got a cliff. They can't attack from here. They have to attack from here. Now, they could move on to the river, but they're going to get -3 strength if they do that. So, we're going to deploy right here. They're attacking uphill. We're not going to attack them, we're just going to defend. As the defender, all we have to do is defend our flag, and we will win the fight. So we're going to force these scouts. Counts as a victory. The scouts are forced to retreat. They cannot attack next turn because they are a fleeing unit. So these units are exhausted. They have fled the battle, so they are unable to attack us next turn. So this unit is now free to run around. Now free to do what they like. Right, I've got another event, the empty vessel. Oh, cool. So some people died in the fight. We can either bury them, get +2 science, we can get swift on 2 targets. So the nearby tribes are going to get extra movement for 5 turns. Always take the extra movement. It's going to be really helpful with your exploration. You can see these guys now got 6 movement. I can split this tribe up and they should both can keep the movement from that event. Yeah, they've both kept the movement from that event, so we can now explore so much more territory. There's actually a mammoth here, and an enemy scout, so we definitely don't want to deal with the enemy scout, because they will mess us up. Try to avoid enemy scouts as much as possible. You don't want to You don't want to deal with them. They're just nasty pieces of work. And they will happily on, again, tutorials for Humankind difficulty, they will just happily murder your dudes as often as possible. It's not going to generate grievances. Their units are stronger. They will take those fights as often as they can. Okay, so just keep in mind the AI is merciless when it comes to early game aggression. Right, our three tribes over here are being attacked by one of the enemy tribes. We don't really have anywhere we can set up our deployment, so we're going to pull these guys back though. So now they're forced to attack my flag because they have to take the flag. That's the point of them being the attacker and us being the defender. So they're attacking uphill against defensive units, so we can just end round. No need to make any attacks ourselves. We actually have higher strength if we just let them attack us. And they're going to do it again. Okay, very nice. So again, we can just defend the high ground. They're forced to attack a high ground unit. And if we want to, we can rotate units out, but we don't need to. We'll just end a few rounds here, and you can see they're just going to get murdered trying to attack us. Why the AI thinks that those fights are a good idea, I'll never be able to tell you why that is, but there you go. Right. I'm hoping they set up their Civ soon, because I'd like to be able to show off attacking them just aging up quickly. Right, they're going to retreat. So you can see that this AI here is starting to get a lot of troops out. They're getting warriors out and everything. So we're going to need a lot of scouts over here to help protect our territory when we come out of Neolithic. Again, normally I wouldn't stay in the Neolithic this long. This is a bit long for Humankind difficulty. I mean, I'd normally try to get out of it by turn 15 at the very latest. I try to juke that scout there. We don't want anything to do with him. I'll break one tribe off to fight that deer, and the other tribe can come down here and scout. Move to the edge of the cliff, get a quick fight there for a little bit extra influence. These guys got loads of extra movement, so they can just run around as free as they like. We have another battle going on, I believe. Right, those guys all joined up. They need like 5 extra food to just get another tribe spawn. What I'm going to do is leave one tribe behind here. One's going to go north. This tribe's going to get this kill on this deer and then come down, try and spawn another tribe there. There we go. Good stuff. We've got 100 spare influence, so we're going to be able to do lots of cool stuff once we hit the next era. I could even set up another outpost if I wanted. Obviously, that's one of the big advantages of continuing in the Neolithic, is getting that extra getting all that extra influence to set up new outposts. Alright, so we got attacked again. Alright, they're just going to go for kills on my tribe, so what we're going to do is we're going to run this tribe as far away as we can. And let them come off the hill to fight us. Okay, so now these guys, going to do is going to run them here. We're going to leapfrog these guys around onto the high ground. Take that attack there, because we are swinging downhill. We definitely want to be swinging downhill. Okay. Now I can move this guy to support. This now counts as a rear attack. And I can move you down here as well to help out with that. Okay, we got rid of that tribe. Very nice. So we're just going to camp next to this outpost and wait for them to age up. They might actually turn this city into or that outpost into the city rather than the other way around. So what we'll do is we'll move these guys down here to camp out on Azhar. So, they're not safe. I wonder if anyone would try to do something like that in a multiplayer game. It would be very interesting to see if that's a strat you can try out in multiplayer, just camping a bunch of tribes like close to where a player looks like they want to set up their first city, and then as soon as they set it up, you just conquer it immediately. That's okay. So we're being attacked by a scout here. Now, even if we don't have a high ground advantage, we can just end the round, and we will still technically win. We just don't make any attack. There's only 3 rounds, so they don't have the strength to actually kill us there. So we do win that fight, quote unquote win that fight. It forces them away so they can't actually attack us next round. And that's all you have to do. Forcing people away hurts with their expansion. Over here we've got Harap and Runners. These are even nastier. But we can still beat them. Again, just sit on the high ground. Runners are going to have to come up and attack us. Okay, they're going to get the high ground there, so there's not much we can do about that. We can defend, get a little bit more damage on them, force them to make the attacks, but they are going to kill us. Losing tribes does suck, but it's not the end of the world. There's still plenty of things you can do. If you start losing all of your early tribes, then it's probably worth restarting, but if you're losing just 1 or 2, it's not too bad. Generally, you want to get outside of the Neolithic without losing any tribes if you can manage it, but it's not always feasible to do that. So don't worry if you lose a couple, but if you lose like 4 or 5, it's probably worth just restarting, because again, this is the very start of the game. There's no need to, like, you know, try to continue what is a bad run, you know? Just chalk it up to bad luck and start again. Right, I've got a couple more fights here. Warriors are absolutely going to delete us, so this is a lost cause. I'm just going to auto battle that. They're going to die, whatever. So yeah, once your neighbors start getting into the ancient era and actually building warriors, you won't stand a chance against them. I'm just going to see if these guys actually age up. There you go. He aged up into the Phoenicians. Interesting. So what we can do here is I can age up as a Teshwo, and I'm going to have a bunch of tribes already on his doorstep. I could have just, you know, aged up earlier and sat outside his base with scouts, because he's going to have to, like, you know, turn one of these cities into or turn one of these outposts into a city. He's kind of forced to do that, but it's fine. We can just do that with scout. Do that on the turn that he ages up. So yeah, you can do it that way. You can age up early, run around with scouts, and just park some scouts outside of a tribe, because they're still technically a tribe until they age up. So yeah, you can just wait or age up. It's up to you. I'm just showing off like how you try to catch the AI out, and that is possible to just basically, yeah, it is basically camping the AI's Neolithic outposts, and when they age up and build a city, then it's your time to strike. Right, we're probably not going to be able to spawn anymore. This won't actually spawn a scout either. Now that we've decided to age up, if I ransack this, it's actually going to create gold, because it calculates the ransack after you've aged up. So the first thing it will calculate is the fact that you aged up. The next thing it will calculate is all of the actions of the units. So ransacking will actually be gold, not new units. Okay. Okay, right. Let's end turn, and then I can show off like how this little rush works.
The challenge. Let's hope. Perhaps you don't really need to focus on markets when you have deep philosophers.
Okay.
And dangerous
Can just
areas.
instant resolve that fight. That wasn't actually a good idea to instant resolve that. It doesn't really matter that much. Just instant resolve that as well. You should fight those battles, but now that I've got 3 scouts here, we're technically trespassing. We're just gonna, hello, you attacked me,
I'm sure you meant no harm, but you must.
and then just surprise wall them immediately. And then we're just going to besiege them. Now, what I recommend is if you're going to attack someone early on in the game, like straight out of Neolithic, maintain the siege. They are going to lose stability over time, and then the militia are going to die out. Once all the militia have died out, you can assault and you'll immediately capture the city. And if it's the only city that your opponent has, so we have time to go burn down his other outpost, if it's the only city they have, then you can knock them out of the game immediately. So you can do that straight off the bat. In the meantime, we can just evolve a new outpost. We also have the option to now relocate. I mean, you can relocate in Neolithic. I wouldn't recommend doing it until you've explored territories fully. But I could choose to relocate, like I put this one down just to get Vinakunka early. Now would be a good time to relocate it into a better spot. And honestly, I like the amount of industry over here, so we're just going to settle that right there, right next to Vinnekunka. It looks nice too. And here, this is really not a great spot. All it does is industry, and it can actually get more industry if we move there. So we'll go there instead and get even more industry from this rocky field. And then I can build more makers' quarters. Turn that into an outpost. If you have enough population coming out of Neolithic, you'll immediately get to found your religion. Every single time I always go polytheism in Humankind difficulty, because population is going to be quite low in the early game, and you generally want to attach 2 or 3 territories per city, so polytheism generates way more faith just early on. It just does, so pick polytheism. Unless you want to convert to one of the AI's religions, which can save you a lot of hassle. That's equally valid. But that's something I'll talk about when I do my Ancient Era tutorial. So hopefully you guys picked up a few tricks about movement, how tribes function, maybe doing a little bit of a cheeky rush out of Neolithic. This is something I have done in my runs on stream, so it's not like me just showing it off just for giggles. This does actually work. Especially if you burn down all their other outposts and you harass their scouts and kill the rest of their scouts. The scouts that attacked me here, if I had fought those battles manually, I could have won them. And then I would have just been basically plain sailing, burn this outpost down, capture Byblos. When I end the war, I'll just be able to take Byblos for myself, and they'd just be eliminated out of the game immediately. And we'd have 2 cities to work with. I could happily just, outpost around Byblos, I could outpost around Hao Jing here, and then off to the races we go. Okay, so that's it for the Neolithic tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed. I know it's a bit of a long one. Future tutorials are going to be broken down with like more snippets, but because the Neolithic is like a singular era by itself, I thought, and it's a pretty quick one to get through. We could have aged up faster, but I thought I'd show off as much as I can. Because if you age up as quickly as possible, this tutorial would have been like 5 seconds. Like, I would have entered a game, got to 5 pop, and bam, we're already in the Ancient Era by turn like 10. So try to show off as much as possible. Hopefully you guys picked up a few tips, tricks, or whatever from it. Movement, a little bit of early combat, zones of control, checking wild animals, doing settling territory. I'll talk about city placement in a future video, because outpost and city placement is something I'll have to go into at length. So yeah. Right, guys. Thank you for watching. If you've got any questions, please leave a comment. You can check out my live streams. There'll be a link to the Twitch in the description. And as always, have a good one. Take it easy. It's been me, Chaff Commander Coffee. And I will see you guys around. Goodbye for now.